Morning, everyone. Hope you're all well. Happy Sunday. Hope you all had a nice week. So, make sure we are streaming here. Perfect. So this week, interestingly enough, I wanted to speak to a few things, but the thoughts weren't quite connecting. Something really good came through. I didn't write it down. And then it became quite scattered. And so I decided to trust last night when I went to sleep. And I said to myself, well, you've begun teachings at times when you didn't know what you were going to say when you started. And it came out quite good. And I just decided to trust. But stubbornly, I'm like, I really want to speak about this topic. And this morning, it kind of came together. I was sort of fine-tuning it a little bit. And then I was debating how to present it. And I was going to present it fully. But I've decided to do it in two parts. I felt today a certain spaciousness out in the world a little bit, and I felt it earlier this week, starting around Wednesday, and it kind of blew me away. Things have felt very enclosed and dense and compact for a long time. And it just didn't feel right to sort of dig into certain fine points, sort of the grit a little bit, so to speak, because I felt it would be a good time to also pray and to touch into the space of healing, which we desperately need. We all have a lot of fire in our bodies, intensity, holding. Our batteries are full. And there are many ways to drain it, as we've discussed. Massage, exercise, yoga, stretching, acupuncture, talk therapy. So I point to all those modalities, which I don't teach. Well, I do teach a little stretching, don't I? And I guess I do teach certain yogas, I guess. I haven't really even gotten into most of the type of yogas that I do. Maybe in a year or two, we could all kind of go there more, though I'm going to touch back into the pranayamas at some point and give that last instruction. But the core of it, what all those modalities do, is to bring us back into a space of spaciousness, a space that brings us peace. It's a space where we feel our wholeness, how we're whole. It's open, it's fresh, like going outside in the early morning, and you sort of have that marine layer that sort of looks like fog. Yes, it is fog. And it's sort of fresh, slightly damp, but not cold. And the air has a lot of cooling moisture. And it's that feeling you have. There's no pollution. There's no noise pollution if you're in a quiet place. And you feel that you could relax your holding and just be. And we can feel when we do that, that we come back to our natural selves, to who we really are. If we've learned to tame our minds, on the spot, when we feel that space, everything could just release. And it feels energetically safe to open, let go. You let go and then you open. I'm actually thinking of a spot in nature, so maybe not so much in a busy street, but imagine a spot in nature that you like, where it's quiet, and you're there by yourself. And it's the early morning, the sun has come up. It's not cold, it's not warm, maybe just a freshness, a slight coolness. And you're relaxed and you're by yourself and you breathe in that open, clear moisture. And it nourishes your throat and your lungs, and you feel held and calm. And your mind kind of goes into that space. Don't you feel whole? You almost feel that's your birthright, or you can feel like it's your birthright. And your life kind of has you sort of like a milkshake shaker or a margarita, a martini little can, shaken, not stirred, right? And we're all turbulent. We've been shaken. We're captured stuff that's not ours, right? None of it is ours, what we hold. Because what's truly ours is that space in nature. That's ours. Everything else is foreign. That space in nature that's open and calm is the Shalom. It's a taste of the Shalom of God. It has that frequency of it. It feels calm and beautiful, and we desire it. We like going into nature because it touches to the very core of ourselves. It feels like home. Many who keep themselves busy can't stop. New York City is a good example of that. This, big cosmopolitan centers. People can't stop, even on vacation. It's often a momentum they get caught up in, and they lose touch with that inner space, and they burn out. But they don't see clearly, they get caught up, don't see their families, don't see their health, they're caught. And there's also a fear of the space, because you touch in to something that gives you room to think, room to see. And people fear that because you start seeing the truth of things. What you've held together, your beliefs, your thoughts, your sense of self, what's right and what's wrong, often things you've convinced yourself to believe. When you touch in that space, your orientation changes. There's a shift. And things that are artificial, contrived, made up, and we convince ourselves, we afraid to go back. We fear we might have problems going back to that intensity. Things open for fresh and new decisions to occur, as well as going back into that intensity, but with greater saneness and wisdom, and engaging it possibly in a healthier, more strategic, less intense, but maybe more efficient way. There are benefits, but there's a fear of space. Everybody on their phone, listening to music, you can't be in open space. There's a fear of being in prayer, fear of meditation, a lack of a desire to walk along a beach barefoot. There's a certain rawness there. You don't see that the waves crashing against the beach and that sound they make is actually very, very healing to our bodies because it cleans us. It cleans our minds through our ears, the vibration against our body, the vibration that we call sound. Sound is a vibration. It vibrates the eardrums. And then brain transforms it into a sound that we're able to identify. And the vibration itself that our body feels, our mind feels that vibration. And it heals, it resets. And part of the learning and the leaning into this and deciding to investigate it, we come to desire it. We want to go to the beach. We want to go into the nature. We want to take time in front of our prayer space because we come to realize that it's a space of healing. We choose not to run away through distraction. We decide to return. And we begin to desire it. And we begin to shift. Because that spaciousness is the space of healing, of calm, of connection, of having a sense of something that's bigger than ourselves. It helps us see things and live in a way that's more whole and less small and finite. Healing is the basis of everything, as I've been showing the last couple of weeks and a little longer. We've been all about healing Why? Because ultimately, it's all about healing. When we descend into healing, we can descend into wisdom. When we descend into healing, we can descend into empowering ourselves. When we descend into healing, we find strength. When we descend into healing, we find consolation. Comfort, holding, repair, connection, connection to ourselves, getting to know ourselves. And this can be our normal self. Often we don't know ourselves actually, what we like and what we don't like, truly. To understand the beauty of ourselves, who we personally are, not even discussing our true selves. A lot of us have very poor self-esteem. And there's a great healing of that. To find pride in ourselves. And it's not the bloated, chest out, how great am I? That's the poisonous form of pride. It's the healthy, sane pride. Recognizing the beauty of ourselves. And walking with our head high. So maybe pride is not quite the right word. It has a lot of negative aspects to it, but there's also positive attributes. It's having that back straight, and having that wholeness. Next week, we'll discuss healing with respect to all sorts of things. The various topics of how it works specifically to just give a brief preview possibly, because I didn't want to go into too dense or too long, but it's important. Healing for anger and hate towards others and oneself, depression and unworthiness, violence, hateful and evil thoughts. And here's the whole list. Shame and guilt, grief and loss, which we've touched about, fear and anxiety, addiction and compulsion, envy and jealousy, and spiritual doubt and apathy. So basically all the big ones. We don't play here at HP Shalom. We get right to the core of things and we discuss them. That's for next week. Everything that ails us, everything that's out of balance, has its cure in healing. It's not a direct engagement on how do I fix it. but how do I work with it? How do I let it go? How do I allow it to dissolve? How do I not hold it up so it collapses under its own weight and is gone? Yes? It's reconnecting to our birthright, to who we truly are. We're repairing ourselves with to the Shekhinah. Ultimately, we're supposed to be bathing and dancing in the Shekhinah, a certain manifestation of the Shekhinah, which we can call who we are by our names, right? Janice, Isabel, Beth, Mary, we all have our personhood, yes? But it ultimately should be the Shekhinah manifested as Catherine, or Isabel, or Kathy, or John, or Johann, or Enrique. Let's just get multicultural here, right? Whatever our name, Toshi, right? So whatever our name is, ultimately it should be in its pure form is the Shekhinah manifested as Toshi. The perfected aspects of who Toshi is have come to the surface and manifest in a balanced, pure way. What's this picture? This popped up yesterday. So interesting on the computer. Often from week to week, the pictures I use somehow don't show up on the program the next week. There was something I wanted to show about this picture, just briefly. I believe this is what these means, but that's what it means to me. What I didn't touch about in this picture, well, there's a few things, but I'm not going to go too much. The colors on the points, I see that as the elements: earth, space, water, air. They're in balance. The aspects of our body that has the spaciousness of air, the solidity of ground, earth, the vitality and spark of fire, the coolness and embodied but yet fluid of water. Yes, I'm not mentioning all of them. I'm not going to go all into everything because there's also space. It depends how you go into them, and I'm not going to go all into this. But what the image shows is balance. Too much fire, it burns us up. We exhaust, leads to anger, leads to exhaustion. We feel fried. Our nervous system's fried. Just fried. And it doesn't necessarily have to be externalized. It could be a very internalized. You're consumed by too much amps in your body, right? Too much space. You're lightheaded. You can't have problems memorizing things. You are disorganized. You don't have a sense of direction. Okay? Each one has the positive qualities of it and the negative qualities. So a positive quality of space would be you're not stuck in so much groundedness that you can't move or do anything. The proper balance is you're grounded, but you're able to exert and explore. You have that right balance. So as the Shekhinah manifests in us, the balance of the air, water, space, all of them is in the proper orientation. And we each have different elements that are predominant in us. Doesn't mean it all gets back to zero. Some people naturally have more ground or more exertion or more spaciousness. And that's part of our nature. It's part of what makes us unique. Yes? So Toshi in his pure form will manifest in a different way as Beth. Beth might have a little more fire, a little less earth, a little air. But it's in the proper balance as to what she is. Because we all have different manifestations. We are not all interchangeable. Yes, some of us might be prone to be more studied, academic, likes to write books. Others like to speak more. Right? Some are very good communicators and some aren't. Some rather be more manual, work in the field, building homes. Even if they have another job, they're in their garage with making chairs as a hobby. Others like to explore. They're always out and about. Every weekend, they're off somewhere investigating something. Others prefer to stay at home. Some choose to be single because their interests are about engaging more. They want the free time. And not out of selfishness, it's because their interests lay in something different. Their form of life has a different quality. Others, everything that gives them meaning are their children. And that's a very beautiful thing. But that's a certain orientation of life as well. And their nature calls them to that. And everything is required for human society to function properly. We need the people interested in medicine. We need the people interested in law to create the rules, to make sure everything functions and flows. We need the economists. We need the bankers for a proper balanced economy. So everybody's interests are necessary and they're different forms and manifestations. The thing is, are we in our alignment? Are we the best Toshi? Are we the best Beth? Are we the best Igor or Howard? And the healing is the release of everything that's not that. And how do we know what we are? We don't. We don't truly know until we discover it. We're on the path of discovering who we truly are. And things shift as we come back and resonate deeper to our inner pure self. And things that weren't there, foreign things that threw off our divine frequency and alignment and balance, which can be seen through the elements. It's helpful to its ways of understanding things, right? The way of understanding what is our constitution, what makes us up. In a way, we're able to understand what too much fire is, and too much water, and too much air, and too much earth, and the rest of it. So we discover it's the path of sort of the uncharted country, the undiscovered self that we have. And anything that's out of balance is an open invitation to bring it into balance and healing. And ultimately, what heals us is to realign frequencies that are disordered. Disorder is an interesting English word. You could define it as literally out of order. Earth has a certain frequency that is very much the opposite of air. Fire and water do not like each other. Right? Yet, for fire to burn, it needs oxygen. Air needs the space. Earth suffocates air. Right? Water needs earth to flow. You see how they all come in? But if one is out of order, too much fire on earth burns forests, which pollutes the air. And then the rain comes down from the polluted air and pollutes the water. It all works together. It's an ecosystem. And what something is out of order, it influences the rest of us. And then influences how we manifest in our society. And then how we manifest into our society affects a little village, a little town, which influences the larger area. And if all the larger areas are influencing each other, then it influences entire countries. And then entire countries influences the world, which in turn influences us personally. So one of the greatest forms of helping our planet is by working on ourselves individually. A lot of my teachers, towards the end of their lives, even when they were younger, but they felt the end coming, all reverted to a teaching about start with yourself. It's very interesting. They taught about a lot of things, but at the end, that was the last teaching. With yourself comes the rest. So by learning to be the rest, Toshi or Yoshi or Susanna or Pierre or Gunther, we put out that frequency. Yes? So we had, grab a little bit of my tea here. So we've been listening to a song, actually backs up into what I wanted to say towards the end. Na Refa Na, that beautiful woman, all dressed up, her amazing voice. I never really mentioned her name, and I have to go back to the video. It's in the credits, in the metadata. But her name was Shoshiane Berry Dotan, Ikunava Livwaka. May her memory be a blessing. She passed a little while ago. But what did she leave us with her greatest testament? A lifetime of singing. But then she made this really amazing song. And people recognized it. And they provided amazing music with background voices and professionally recorded it and mixed and mastered it. It works because her inner alignment manifested through her voice, a lifetime of living, manifested towards the end of her life, this beautiful song. Her work, her fruition of who she was came out as this beautiful masterpiece. And that frequency she put out blesses and helps heal us all. And the one song is about healing. And the tikkun that she did to ourselves become the tikkun of our world. And it's spreading. Whatever traction it had, the fact that I'm playing it has put it worldwide. And it blesses. It calls us back to a state of purity. It puts out a frequency that resets us because our frequencies are disordered, out of order. Too much fire. Fire is a very burning frequency. Literally ulcers, right? Heart attacks, too much fire. A sense of burning of the nerves, too much fire. It's... One moment, please. So when we put out a frequency that has a healing sound to it, it interacts with everything else. So calming with a sacred words, El Na Refa Na La, all over the place. The is one of, well, it's the first sound, and it's a very holy sound, and I've spoken about it in the past, but it's the key of It's not A. A lot of languages, the first letter in the alphabet is and it's very whole, and it's very sacred sound. And when it's said, that frequency helps reset us. And ultimately, fire, earth, air is a frequency. We have fire in our body, the heat, we have a certain temperature. We have water, the blood that goes through this. We have air in our lungs. earth is everything that's sort of solid. Yes, there's other elements, but I'm not going into that. And this has to be space, of course, because we can't live if there's no room for us to have our sense of being, correct? So when you put in a frequency, it rebalances. When we balance, everything that's not out of balance no longer has a place to attach to, and it naturally leaves. That makes sense? A lot of things live with us only in the sense of disorder, because in a movement, in the out of calibration, it has a place to hold on to, a place to hide. The sense of momentum, the speed we like to live our lives without room for reflection, allows us to hold on to a lot of things that would just naturally leave. Because when there's stillness, things sort of reconnect back to factory settings, and everything that we've accumulated starts moving through. And we learn how to work with that. We connect to the Shekhinah, and that becomes our ground, our basis from which we live. We've put our ground, the basis, on a lot of things which ultimately should not be our ground. Maybe that's a talk for next week. I'm going to make a note for that. Hopefully I'll remember. So I'm going to write that down. One moment. That's it. So when we sing, and this is why I encourage us to sing, we put in a different vibration. By putting in the vibration into our body, well, sort of torn to say it, because there's one way that would say it, shamanistic would put it one way, and then another school I've taught with would say that's a little aggressive. So I'm sort of torn. But let me just say, it knocks out what shouldn't be there. And in a way it does. One school would say it releases and lets go. Another one would be like, it knocks it out. It removes it. Because the sacred sounds with the ah in it, coming from a passage in the Old Testament, a prayer of healing that's been said for millennia, has a lot of power, and it throws out, meaning knock out, throws out things that don't have the right frequency that's in alignment with it, hence the healing. Or saying a name of God with Rafa at the end. That brings in the healing aspect of God, which is honestly all the aspects. Because when you heal, you connect with God truly. So it was very interesting on my journey. People were doing all sorts of different practices with different things that engaged different aspects of energy. And I came to the conclusion early on, well, if you do healing, it fixes the rest. And a lot of people looked like I was on drugs. They didn't understand it. The teacher, eyes got big. He understood it. We look for different things to fix something. We think we need more of this or more of that, but do we have the wisdom to know what we truly need? some of the greatest way on the path of what, step back on that. A way to approach the path is to realize we don't have the awareness or the perspective to fully understand what we may need or not need. And often the most powerful how to put it, it's like 10 different ways have come to my mind and I'm not liking any of them. Well, they all work, but not in teaching way. And they're all valid. We can come to understand we can put it into neutral, what we want, without saying or trying to push something we think we want. And we shove our gearbox with downshift. We put our gearbox in neutral, 0, the N in the middle, where we're not in a gear. But that doesn't mean we're not in a gear. It means we've decided to be neutral as to our intent in our practice. And it's not full neutrality because we're in our practice and we're asking for healing. So that is an intent. But how that healing would manifest we're not asking for a particular manifestation. We are placing our trust, our faith, dare I use that word, in God, in the sounds and the mantra we're using. In the frequency, we are taking time out of our day and effort to learn that we are manifesting. And we are learning to just do it with no intent, an openness to allowing the process to work. We're asking for the Shekhinah to rise up in ourselves and to bless us, bless the various energies, elements, aspects that live with us, which in turn heals our brain. Which in turn heals our body, which in turn heals our world. But it comes from a place of resting and trust and allowing things to unfold in their natural way without forcing it in one way or the other. It invites a pregnant space for healing to manifest. A couple weeks ago, I was in a rush to get out of town, running super late. Almost didn't go. I was so irritated. Didn't get done anything I wanted to get done with work, fraction of what I wanted to do. All these things I had to do before I sort of rushed out. And I'm like, I'm still going to do this. So I went, tried to calm down. Yeah, it's a human condition, no judgment, no judges. It's what it is. We all get caught up. The question is, what do we do about it? So we bring in our techniques to, and we're like, I was under a lot of compression. I am underslept. I am on the time clock to get to a place by a certain time and valid reasons as to why I need to do so. And I'm crunched myself with a lot of fire and not being open to the open unfolding and trust of the situation that it's going to unfold as it needs to unfold. And in the end of the day, it functioned perfectly fine. I turned on the music, Na Refa Na, and interestingly, I was in a place that triggered certain painful memories of my childhood. So I was encountering that at the same time while driving about 72 miles per hour on the freeway, which is the speed that California drivers speed on the freeway. We have 65 miles per hour speed limit. So everybody has realized that 72 is the magic number where you don't get a ticket. So everybody's at 72. And I'm having flashbacks to my youth, which were painful while still being irritated. And I'm like, wow, I'm really being tested here. And just trying to relax. And I put Na Refa Na on, because I have it. My Apple Music, I put it in. Yes, you can download it to the app itself. It's a little tricky. You have to play with it a little bit, but it can go on your playlist on your iPhone and things. I'm an iPhone person. It's also on YouTube, the original, so you could find it. Both of them are on YouTube. That's where I found this music. So I put it on, and something very interesting happened. Within 2 verses of the song, now I'm able to see things in my body, and it takes a while before you have that sort of inner vision that comes up, and you really can't make this stuff up, and it's quite incredible when it occurs. I literally saw in my mind's eye, both hemispheres of my brain. And as Na Refa Na Refa Na, I saw, I think, 5 lines move. And I saw 3 parts of my brain on the left and 3 parts of my brain on the right. And as each sound was saying, I saw a line from the left move to the right, then sort of go diagonal. Well, it was diagonal first, and then it went straight to the other hemisphere, and then it moved, and it literally hit different parts of the brain on different sides. And it did it once, and I literally felt it, boom, boom, hit different parts of my brain. And then when it finished, everything I was holding collapsed. It just whooshed. And I felt complete calm. Can't make this stuff up. And then I realized I have to teach my students about this. It is an aspect of mantra I have not fully touched on. And so I've mentioned energy today. Interestingly, piggybacked on something I wanted to teach from 4 weeks ago. How wondrous is that? And it all fits together perfectly today. Mantra activates things in our body which invites release. Now, I've worked a lot with mantras through the chakras, which interestingly I haven't discussed that much. I've never encountered it in the brain before in my life. I thought about the tree of life and I realized, oh, that's so interesting. That works a lot with the brain and not so much with the physical body. It works with different forms of energy, just like Na Refa Na, and they come from the same tradition. Whoa, I wasn't expecting that. And yet it gave validity to what I experienced. Well, I knew it was correct just because I've done enough practice and it came out of the blue and I didn't think like something like that would happen. So that gives me validity. It's a way to check oneself when one has an experience. And then I saw the effect and my mind was calm. And with time, you have that inner wisdom that just knows when something's legit and valid and not from your subconscious or some desire or some way of thinking that you think is legit, but it's just a fragment of your mind or aspects of your thinking that you're not conscious of. So you have to be very careful about that, especially at the beginning. But then I thought about the tree of life, and I'm like, well, that matches with what I experienced. And I started also working with the names a little bit along with the syllables, along with the mantras, but I'm not with the chakras, but I'm not getting into that until I explore that in a deeper way. But what I want to show about that is that mantras invites a really pure and powerful form of recalibrating our minds, which in turn affect the energy of our bodies. Is also working with the body, more the chakras, which affects our mind. It all works together like a big circle, and they feed back into each other. And our bodies and our minds together manifest an energy that we emanate into our world. Yes, it's just the truth of it. Just 100%. There's no other, that's the way it is. So, thing I wanted to share, mantras are activated through practice. You work with it, it starts working with you. There's a certain amount of repetition and engagement and trust in, and a sort of alignment with the frequency, and they become empowered. This is the aspect I really wanted to speak about, because I think this is nothing I've said in the 2.5 years I've been teaching. This is really getting to like the essence of what mantras are through repetition. It's one reason some schools have people do it for 10,000, 100,000, 1,000,000, yes, it's real, times. You go deeper and deeper and deeper. The experience I had in the car at 72 miles per hour, don't do that unless you're practiced. I've been doing this for a long time, but at the same time, it sort of came out of the blue. That experience came through practice, came through listening to that song and singing along. You've activated your medicine. Oh, here's a good example. You take a pill, medicine. Right? So mantra, in a way, you're taking a mantra, you're taking the pill. If you don't add water, it's going to go straight into the stomach and won't be as effective. We've all taken pills with not enough water. It's not as effective, right? For a lot of the medicine. You take the water, it fully gets absorbed into the body. That's why the doctor says take with a lot of water, right? and best taken on an empty stomach for a lot of them. Most of them, some of them not. Mantra, listening to it and getting into it, a song in this case, or, Yahweh Wafa, Elohim Wafa, Hashem Wafa, right? Is the practice of it is like adding the water. It always has an effect, but when you bathe in it, it's really gets to it. And you get to the point that once you'll put it on, and everything will just shift and heal itself. And what it did, everything that was spinning in my head, the tense, the thoughts, oh my God, I wish I can go on this drive in a more relaxed way, it collapsed. Because it never was real. It was contrived. It's our minds, our emotions, our desires of having achieved, leaving early, doing more, not having to multitask as one packs while trying to work, while trying to do this and finish laundry, right? That's a pressure, a fire, and also a resentment and a desire for it to be different, which gives rise to emotion. Which, because I'm too careful, could lead to reckless driving and going too fast and all the getting lost on the road because you're not fully there, right? So it could snowball. And if you don't know how to release it, it could stick for those next couple days because you're not able to let it go because it's stuck. Right? And that happens to a lot of people. As one practices, you don't get stuck. You see it, you recognize it, you see its causes. And you're like, wow, I just got caught up. And you kind of laugh. And you're like, whoa, okay. And you realize why. There's no judgment, exhaustion. Need to work on this. Oh, a little more of that. Okay. What's the antidote? Well, I'm working with Na Refa Na with my students. I'm working on it with myself. I'm putting on the music. And poof. Gone. Like a cloud of vapor hitting the sun. Disappears. Because it never existed. Never real. And what's underneath? Clear, open space. Calm. The relief. And tears. Because that pain of what was triggered in my youth is real, was real. It's also not real, but the pain I feel is real. And I released in tears and I cried because it was painful. And that release of crying, the tears, the act of crying and actually making a bit of a noise is a release of energy, of unprocessed pain and sadness that a young child has. And as an adult, we hold that. It affects us. It's part of our battery that's a little more buried. And the crying releases that. It gives it expression, often in a way that we couldn't when we were younger. All the time, Na Refa Na is playing in the car, and then I started singing it. And deeper, and pushing my voice to places that, were a little possibly beyond my skill set. But then the vibration into my body, and I started not just hearing a prayer, I began manifesting it through my singing of it. You can hear it, and then you can sing it. Because hearing it affects the ears into the mind. Singing it with your voice. The voice is, we think it's external, and it is. But the vocal cords is a vibration. How we make sound, right? We vibrate a frequency out, other people hear it, and we hear it as sound, as a voice. But the body, what it hears, what it feels, is a vibration. It's a holy, sacred, healing vibration. And when we activate our vocal cords, that vibration fills our body from the inside, which affects our nerves, where we hold it, goes into our bones, which is basically where the battery is stored. Right? The energy is stored in our bones, and it affects our minds, and does that thing it does by bouncing off the hemispheres. And yes, it hit the cleared button. So it's very important to sing along for that reason, even if we're not a singer, because, and even if we're tone deaf, even if we crackle, it doesn't matter. The healing is in large part through the vibration of our vocal cords. And as opposed to having all the vibrations that ail us, the pain from our childhood, the desire of our morning being different, the compression of rushing, because it's impossible to arrive after sundown where I was going. So I'm literally watching the clock with regard to the sunset. And I made it within 20 minutes leeway. Barely made it, but still, I made it. And then the lesson, everything could have unfolded without the stress if I just simply trusted how it unfolded. Yes? But the healing is having invited an external thing to come in. So, tribute to one of my beautiful teachers. May his memory be a blessing. And it is. Because he's not just a memory, he lives. He lives in me, in what I share, just like the beautiful singer, Shoshiana, she lives on. Her blessing is active through her music. We all are a blessing currently as we're alive to those around us, hopefully. And when we're gone, hopefully we're a blessing, not just a memory, but all the good we've done and how it affects others. And the work we do creates that reality. So may it not be may it be a blessing. We can make it is a blessing. That the manifestation does bless through what we've put out. And it becomes increasingly a blessing as we heal ourselves. And my dear teacher, who I love dearly, encouraged to do this by being present with what is occurring, rather than seeking or solving or fixing it immediately. And it begins by knowing and seeing what one is feeling: pain, sadness, anger, desire, without denying it. Those are literally the same words he would have used when he was teaching something like this, and I didn't have them in that way on this paper. So we see, long after he's gone, there is a blessing on the great wisdom he held through his education, through his practice, his attainment, and working on his ability to communicate it in a language that's not his native language to people who have a completely different background as he does. And that blessing lives on through him having worked on himself and manifested what he felt his calling was. The healing is by feeling and understanding exactly what it is. I'm feeling anger. I'm feeling overwhelm. And why? And what were the causes? And healing arises when we bring gentle awareness to what is, as it is. No judgment. It's the human condition. It's just the soup worth swimming in. But we recognize it and we name it without judgment. Simply is what it is. Question is, what do we do with it? So contemplation, one form of it, is not just thinking about something, but becoming familiar with its truth. Letting it permeate, sort of fill our hearts and our minds, to see it clearly, not to become overwhelmed, but look at, what is this? What am I feeling? What's causing this? And so when we meditate, we've learned through sense of presence and calming our minds, which is the basis of this type of contemplation, which is more insight. We're developing an insight into what's going on, and it's often based on top of reflection and calming. Now, when you are further along, like me, you do it right on the spot and you can get that space. But for a lot of people, as we're beginning, we're so caught up in it that there's no space. Yes, there's no immediate, oh, I'm here, and that just pull back, that's instantaneous, and you're no longer engaged. The car's in neutral, it's spinning around you, and you're just looking at it, and you're like, whoa, I'm here again. No judgment, but it's just saying what it is and be like, well, no longer engaged with this, but I just kind of need to like collapse this down. It's not real and it's affecting me emotionally. Right? But then at the same time, you're also caught up in it because your minds and your emotions are triggered. So there's sort of that dual. It's not distanced that you're removed, but you're not also so caught up that you've lost your awareness and of what's going on. It's not, your mind hasn't run away with you, that you've lost any sense of perspective. You've noticed that your mind is irritated and your horse is jumping. You're a rider in it. You're also irritated. But then you also realize, I am on the reins of this horse. I'm going to calm the situation down. Yes? So there's a certain awareness. So the contemplation in this sense, what is this pain or movement or irritation or illness telling me about my separation from the Shalom, from the Shekhinah, from the source of who I am, the purified Yoshi or John, the essence of who I am in balance that is within us. And what would it mean? What change would occur if I became closer to that in this moment? If what's occurring would shift, what would be released? Discomfort, a lot of emotions. And then when we look at emotions, we see how they all feel different. Sadness feels different than anger, feels different than depression, feels different than jealousy. There's some emotions I do not honestly know or experience, thankfully. Jealousy is one of them. I had no concept of what that is until one time. I think it's the only time I felt it. And I'm quite shocked because that's not in my nature. And boy, God, it was awful. I had like the full experience in the stomach. It just churned and it was thick and it had a green color and I wanted to throw up. It was a horrid emotion and it feels it. You feel it viscerally. And I was so thankful afterwards because I finally discovered what jealousy felt like. It ain't pleasant. None of them are pleasant. And it was very overwhelming. I didn't like at all how it felt. Why? Because it's foreign. It's really out of alignment. No judges, but it ain't in alignment. None of them are really in alignment. But they're all different. And we start contemplating is, what would it feel like without that emotion? What does that emotion feel like? This is a little more advanced. This is sort of when you're leaving the beginner level and you're entering the intermediate level. What is that? So it's advanced beginner and beginning intermediate. And then as you enter the full intermediate, you're learning to ride that horse and master this. And advanced, it's just a whole different thing. So, and depending on what it is, you could work with it at different levels, and you take the instruction at different levels if you're able to handle that instruction. So you're really working on how it's manifesting in that moment, and how are you best able to engage with it at that moment. When you're fully triggered, often you can't do that because it's like a magic force field and it's pulled you into it and there's no getting out. You kind of have to run its course, especially at the beginning. So you could do cardio, you could go meditate if you're able to when you're under this, which is a struggle and challenging, but you develop that muscle with time. Or you could learn how to just step back and release it. That takes practice. There's different ways. Or you put on the music Na Refa Na, and you listen, and you allow it to bathe you. And with your practice, you know that it just heals by listening. And even though it's difficult and you don't want to, and you pulled away, you make a conscious choice to shift your vibration by singing along. The mind cannot do two things at once. I know we believe in multitasking. Not really real. Mind's at 100%. Multitasking is just cutting up different parts of percentages. There's no multitasking and the mind just goes to 200%. No, you're taking sub portions. So you do two things. If one requires 70% of the mind, it'll take 70 and the rest has 30. Right? You listen to music, the mind can still spin. You listen to music and you sing. I'm sorry, there's not that much more room in the mind to do something else. Speaking takes a lot of the mind. The bandwidth available for other things really doesn't have a lot more. And then you're listening and speaking. The mind doesn't have that much more space to do anything. The music is beautiful. Well, now the mind is starting to get enchanted in a good way, mesmerized by the beauty, because we all love beauty of the song. And it has sacred healing notes that's been sung for millennia. Look, at this point, it's just not fair. The mind is just done. And I'm talking about the emotions generated by the mind, the aspects of the mind in the horse out of control. You see? So no matter where you are on the path, music and sacred music is very important. Sacred prayers are important. A lot of ancient prayers aren't said in spoken words. They're meant to be sung, interestingly enough. And when they're said, when they're sung, oh my God, next, 5 levels beyond, especially when they're in the native language they were written in. It's helpful to learn the English, or the French or the German. You have to know what you're saying. It gives you comfort that you're saying the right things and they mean the right things. But they're written with certain sounds of the native language, with certain words in a certain structure. It's just not random. These people highly educated on how to do these things. And they were said in a certain way by many people. So there's certain power. And so we're taking in the medicine. We're hearing it's beautiful. And we are vocalizing it. The emotion and the anger, the depression, the what we wish or we coulda can't exist in the system anymore. And it all collapses because we've taken on a different frequency. One that aligns us back to the Shalom, our birthright, open and spacious. And then when we're back to that space, we can, now that we've stabilized, And if we go back on our meditation cushion, when we do that open space, this is not a place for mantra practice. Mantra is something else, not this. We go back to that open space where we just sit calmly, bring our thoughts back and back like I've taught, right, in the past, and our minds settle. So our minds have settled, then we can call up that what happened without getting pulled into it and start contemplating it. What was that? What triggered it? What was real about it? And how is it different from this space of shalom that I'm trying to, or am sitting in? My mind is calm. What's different from now to then? Which one is quote unquote real? And what worked to reduce it? And what elements could I bring into my life so I don't get as pulled or as triggered or launched into that emotional state where I could react and hurt people, react and ruin my day, as opposed to acting with intention. And with this contemplation, which works directly with our minds, we are using our minds here. So our minds have a purpose. The gray matter between our ears has a purpose. And this is how we're using our minds constructively, but we're anchored back into our awareness. We're living or trying to connect to our shalom because we've cultivated a calmer space where wisdom lives, where our awareness, where our inner temple manifests more. And then we're looking at what occurred, and we're using our minds to analyze and to break it down and to contemplate. And then we look, what can I do when I'm in this situation in the future? How do I go about it? What do I need to change? How can I make this better? With no judgment. And that's how you change things. That's how you grow in wisdom. Wisdom manifests from below, one thing I teach, but also from the top down. Your mind. You learn to educate your mind how children should have been taught from the very beginning. Problem is, we've never been taught this. How to engage, and not just saying, this is how I am, and therefore that's what I'm doing, and because I feel that way. I feel it, therefore I do it. I think this, and therefore it's fine. I'm empowered. That is the poisonous thinking of today. And you see the results of this world we live in, horrific on so many levels. No judges, but it is. But it's almost just saying matter of fact. This is just what it is. And why? Because it's an indulgence. We weren't taught on how to look at this and how to deal with it and walk it back from an early age. We were not taught emotional sanity. How we're not our emotions, we're not our disturbed thinking, and when we're agitated, it might be best just to do nothing until we're calmer. In my life, well, not necessarily the case, so I'm not going to say that. So, do we kind of understand? I've always said I wanted to discuss insight and contemplative meditation. So this is one aspect of it, dealing with our real world. There's a much deeper aspect of it, which will be for another time. We learn and we change. And we also realize there is ways to lower the temperature and to release what really is not real. And that is the lower, deeper form of a contemplation, which I'm not getting into now. But as we do this analysis, we begin to realize I'm not those emotions. I am not those thoughts at all. And we begin to understand how valid, how truthful this is, not just because it comes from my mouth or has thousands of years of teachings behind it. That's completely irrelevant unless you fully taste it in your life and believe it and put it into action. The guidance is how to make it real for you, that you see it and you have that aha moment. And sometimes a sense of horror that you never saw it this way before, and you never knew the underlying truth beneath of the Shalom. And sadness that you didn't discover it sooner, or you weren't taught as a 5-year-old, slowly, patiently, when you had your temper tantrum. That your parents didn't gently show you a different way of being. So by the time you were 12, 13, 14, this was your way of being. And imagine what this world would be like if a whole generation of children were taught this from an early age. By the time they were adults, things would change. By the time they were middle age or elders, the whole world would be transformed, and we would increasingly go to deeper and deeper levels of this. And things would become healed. Right now, we're working on our healing because we're available. We have the desire. We're seeking something different. Otherwise, you wouldn't be listening to me. Well, you might be a theologian and you're interested, and this is fascinating, and there's things you've never considered, all beautiful. But it's all about putting it into the practice. And contemplation and coming to an understanding, coming to your own realization, is no longer about faith, lowercase f, in someone, in this case HP Shalom, or in what my teachers taught me, or the texts from many different traditions that exist, or even traditions that don't have text and are spread orally from mouth to ear, from generation to generation. But it becomes faith with a capital F, unbreakable faith. Faith anchored in solidity of knowing with a capital K, because you've experienced it and you know it as true with a capital T, because you've come to your own understanding of it. And that's chewing on things. I said, I'm chewing on something. I'm contemplating something. Think about it. I have that clear space. Something else comes on in my life that I focus on. And then I'm doing that. And then suddenly, randomly, my mind is doubling back on it. And I'm contemplating, how do I go about this? Or what do I think on that? Or I should share this with my students. But what elements do I want to share? I don't know. So I've been chewing on this for a month. It comes and goes. I forget. I can't recollect. I wanted to say it since last Sunday, and then it completely fragments and disappears for the whole week. Never thought I can give this talk. Unable to prepare it because I can't make it land at all, that I could even prepare it. And then boom, this morning it all comes together. And is presented in a way much better than I could have come up with. Why? How? Because you learn to live from a different space that's more open. And you learn to tap in. And your mind relaxes from all this grasping and chewing, which was necessary, to a space where it flows. Flows from what? Years of chewing, years of reading and contemplating. It's all in my mind somewhere. How does it come together? How does it come? And it comes from a trust. You trust and you pray that what you learn manifests through in a good way, that it brings healing and trust. And you live, for me, in faith. As I've been speaking the whole time, I've been looking at the Aleph in front of my prayer space. And living in the calm place of the Shalom, you come to trust that as how things unfold, you trust it. It doesn't mean it's good or it's bad, but there's an energy you learn to ride it. And you don't necessarily go with it, but you don't get pulled into it. And you start engaging with it from a radiance of wisdom and truth and compassion and wholeness, intelligence, strength, confidence, all aspects of the Shekhinah's manifestation in this world. And then things begin to shift because your true self manifests more and more and becomes more and more in your driver's seat. And you begin to realize that your car becomes increasingly made of gold, because you're no longer manifesting the rust or a sharp or a green or a blue. You're manifesting in your life. Your vehicle is functioning in a saner, more aligned way with what the Aleph manifests, what it symbolizes. An unnameable purity. And as we contemplate and come to understand ourselves, we start learning more and more skillful ways of how to turn our car as we become that. Different exits we should maybe move towards so we don't end up in the same road in a circle and come back to similar places again and again and again and again. Isn't it painful? Because we're changing things. We realize our car shouldn't take this type of fuel. We realize we're putting lead fuel into an unleaded car. Just a lot of what we're doing nowadays, sadly. Or we realize we could upgrade our car to a hybrid, to solar. We realize we don't even are really a car. We're something else. We're more like a jet. As we go to different levels, we get to different understandings and radiance of the Shalom, the essence of the Shekhinah manifesting. And we realize the way we thought and understood things were levels of understanding, of awareness on our world. And it was a level. And then we release and realize, oh, but it's this. Oh, but it's this. And we go to more subtle and subtle levels. And the closer you get to something and you remove the layers, you get to the heart of it, the inner tabernacle, the inner ark, our inner covenant with Hashem or Yahweh, the inner temple. We approach closer and closer to God, and that radiance, that field of frequency, becomes what operates our emotions and our minds. We've released what blocks us, and it creates space for something new to bring our frequencies and our elements into balance. Amen. And so songs like Na Refa Na or other songs we sing, Mishabera, are tools. They're medicine. They're means to bring in a frequency that helps us get there through music. Buffalo drum is a frequency that releases what our body holds and invites tension, density to leave. And why is that good? Because it helps us touch into deeper frequencies, harmony that's underneath. But we can't get past that wave of gravity of something else, the density of that Star Trek with that big shock wave coming. We're in the shock wave. No judges. It's the human condition, the shock wave of anger, reaction, hurt, crippling depression, violence, wrong ways of seeing things of joy and hurting people. All this, it's all in that shock wave. We all have different ways of different things that trap us. And we learn through using the names of God how to move through it, how to release it, how no longer to live there. It's all about healing, my dear friends. The path is fundamentally about healing. And it comes from outside teachings, songs, books, blessings from services. We can view God as being outside of us. It's totally valid. And one should somewhere, in some way, see that as well. But it works, really works, because that truth that's in those books is our true nature within us. And the healing doesn't necessarily come from outside, but it does. But the healing occurs within us because it changes us. Because there's a pure place within us. Our true selves are gorgeous, compassionate, loving, wise, very smart, intelligent, healing, others and ourselves. We are beautiful, beautiful, holy people inside. That's our core. We are the sons and daughters of God. We are the Shekhinah manifested on this planet in human form. We merely have to release or purify or let go of what's not us, what we've accumulated, what we've become, our fault, our not fault, our not knowing better. It doesn't really matter. But we are making choices today to release it, to heal, so we come home to ourselves, our true selves that lives within us and has always lived within us. Amen. So, I'm going to play some music. And I strongly, please, even if you just do it for me, please sing along. And see why I'm encouraging you, please sing along. And then afterwards, after this prayer session is done and you've sung along, then look at the difference, contemplate the difference of how you felt when you just listened and how you felt when you were singing. And how do you feel now afterwards? And how did you feel previously when you just listened but didn't sing? How did you feel afterwards back then? And then you grow in understanding. And you look, what held me back from singing? If you don't feel a difference, well, if I did more of this, maybe I would feel a difference. H.P. Shalom says, sometimes it takes a while to get into that frequency, especially if we're not used to it. Maybe I'll trust him and see what happens. That's trust and faith in a teacher. That even though you don't see it, you trust that maybe he sees it and you're just not quite seeing it yet. And that's being on the path. A lot of people said a lot of things to me and I'm like, I really don't see that. As I moved along, I'm like, oh my God. And you realize, oh, I was there. Now I'm here. Oh, now I understand. And then you have trust more. And then you realize as you move along, you could trust the teacher more. But you always have your wisdom. Some of my teachers, you got to 80% of it. And in that last 20, you're like, oh no. And you realize you've learned what you needed from that person and you move on. And in hindsight, as you grow, you're like, oh yeah, that last 20%, that was a doozy. Not everybody's fully purified. So you always have your intelligence, but you also recognize, where am I? And realize there also is an element of, I'm just not quite there yet to fully see it. Or there's a lot of blocks for me to resonate and understand that. But music and sound throughout entire human history, and I rarely use absolute words, has always played a central part, instruments and singing. And I bet you from most, if not all, religious movements have had or used sounds and song to help the true ones who are, of love and caring. For sure. Because sound heals the mind and the body, and singing is very important. So I invite everybody to sing along, if only just for me, and contemplate the difference. Contemplate what I've said today. Find a still place, and chew on it. You learn by chewing, contemplating, letting it go. During the week, you're on the bus, and it comes back up, dabble in it a little there. You learn better than the internet, though I do the internet, we all do. It's fine. But then that's really productive, and it changes you. As you have that aha moment that's real, the mind loses a little bit of its solidity. That logic that left you trapped, of not knowing things, of flowing with things that come up, and you don't know any better, or you think it's you, that starts coming undone. And that's the use of the mind. You could come to understand the nature of our minds, the way our thoughts works, the way our memory works. And you come to an understanding that it's a beautiful instrument. But that instrument is an instrument. And it's meant for us to play it like a flute, but the flute is not meant to play us. And then we learn to put our minds in its rightful place as a tool of the Shekhinah's manifestation as our purified us on this planet. And the mind is in its proper place, and it doesn't run away with us. It doesn't put us into a spell where we hurt someone, or we misunderstand, or are gravitated to things that happen to us that we can't release, and we think we're a naturally depressed person, or we're naturally angry, or we're naturally jealous. And we don't shift that, or we don't shift and look for medicine or teachings or spiritual paths that help us heal. When we heal, we come home. If we're not religious, we come home to the universe. Pure, open, wise, loving. Which is who we are inside. And our covenant is our desire to make that amends, to heal. We do repair. Okay. So we're just going to play some music. And I ask you to get lost in it. Sing. Sing with your heart, with your soul. Just get lost in it. And each time you hear it, let go your resistance more and more and more, and just sing it. Take your voice where you think it can't go, and even if it cracks and all the tones are wrong, you're singing with your heart in the flow, And you might be surprised. With time, you are able to hit the notes. With time, your frequencies heal. And ultimately, it's about saying the sounds and releasing. It allows the mind to have to let go of patterns and frequencies that's not in alignment. And you're putting in frequencies and patterns and sounds that are in alignment. And that heals the brain. You start thinking differently, then you start acting differently. And the contemplations that I teach are easier to do. So this is also known as insight meditation, contemplative meditation. I don't think it's something I did teach this once, but from a deeper perspective. This is how we bring things into our daily lives. We're looking afresh, and we look at what we're doing, and we're like, oh, maybe if this might be something to look into, or, maybe if I do less of this and more of that. And we might be successful. We may do it for a little bit and then fall out from it and stop. But then if it is the right thing, then we go back to it and we try again without judgment. And then eventually it becomes a habit. We replace bad habits with good habits. And with the course of time, it changes. There's old sage from a tradition I learned from. Each time, considered a very wise man, great teacher. Each time he had I think it was a bad thought or a bad action. I think he was a hermit, so it would have been a thought. So each time he had a bad thought, or maybe even a bad action, I have to look it up, he would put a black stone in his pocket. And then each time he had a good thought, he put, or action, or emotion, I guess. I'm going to throw all three in, because that's just, why not throw all three in? It doesn't really matter. It's all helpful. It's all just different elements. It's good. He would put in a white stone. So at the beginning, at the end of, I don't know, a week or day, he would pull out the stones and they were all black. With time, with his intent, he did not start out as a saint. He did very harmful things. Black magic. He actually killed a bunch of people out of anger and jealousy. Something, rage, definitely. And I think a lot of people died, 18 or something. And he worked on himself. And he replaced the stones. And as he worked on himself, suddenly there was a couple more white stones in the pile of stones in his pocket. And then with time, there was more and more white and less black, until one day there were no more black stones in his pocket. And that was him working on himself. A little here, a little there, contemplation, changing his frequencies and his thoughts and his actions. And he worked on purifying himself. There's never a judgment of where we start, but there's always a conscious decision on what we do from day to day to take that driving wheel and shift those gears. Swap out the bad GPS, put in something else to guide you, and you start working and shifting to a different destination. All right, my friends, let's listen to some music together. If you're in front of your shrine, feel free to light it, and we're just going to sing. So, as we sing, let's focus here on ourselves. So, El Na Refa Na La. I'm going to focus a little bit on ourselves a little bit. El Na Refa Na La. So, last week, we said to heal her. Please, God, heal her. So, remember, one way of understanding these prayer is we're healing our relationship with the female aspect of the Shekhinah, our connection. Heal her. Heal our connection with the Shekhinah. Female aspect of the Shekhinah is wisdom, compassion, love. Yes, some of them. El Na Refa Na Lo. Heal our relationship to the male aspect of the Shekhinah. Love manifesting, compassion in action, wisdom that guides our actions and our thoughts. It's the manifested aspect of the female aspect. That makes sense? El Na Refa Na Li, heal me. So let's take this more physically. Heal my body, heal my thoughts, heal my actions, heal my emotions, heal my illnesses. Everything that's sort of in the manifested form of us. The kingdom in the Sifirot, the Makut. Everything that we feel and are and do and think that's embodied. So we're asking a healing of that. And then we remember that it's the human condition, what we have. It's not our fault. It's everybody is living with this. So our prayer is, since we care about others, because that's the Shekhinah being manifested in us, our prayer extends to all human beings who, in a way, suffer or are afflicted in the same way as we are. So we extend the desire and the prayer that all of us may find this healing. Yes? And it's a prayer. Please, God, heal her. Please. It's a supplication. Please, God, heal him. Please. Please, God, heal me. Please. Please, God, heal us. Please. We sing out this prayer towards the heavens, that God in his mercy help us heal ourselves, give us strength to walk the road and put in the practices and the thoughts and the actions that we can help us heal ourselves. Do what we do. That's important. We have a part to play. But then we're also asking God from his end to bring in divine healing into us and our world. Divine healing and abilities into our actions, that the road doesn't need to be long or hard. It could be easier. The healing can be quicker, can be more thorough. So we rise up in prayer to our Lord.
Refa Na La, El Na 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 Refa Na La. Elna refana lo, elna refana lo, elna refana lo, elna refana
lost in the words and the melody. We forget what they mean. We remember we are saying what they mean. We are singing in a foreign language. And by just singing, we are saying the prayer. So we get lost in the sound. We get lost in the words. We get lost in the melody. And we sing a very deep part of ourselves. We sing our prayer up to God.
Na Refa Na, Na Refa Na.
מי שברא אבותינו, מקור החיים לאמותינו, הוא יברך את החולים, את החולים, אל נא רפא נא, אל נא רפא נא, אל נא רפא נא, אל נא רפא
This is a prayer that's sung. It's a real prayer. So let's sing it with faith and devotion, with all our hearts. Sing it to God. Sing it to Hashem. Sing it to you. Sing it, my friend. Pray this prayer.
מי שברא אבותינו, מקור החיים לאמותינו, הוא יברך את החולים, את החולים, אל נא רפא נא, אל נא רפא נא, אל נא רפא נא, אל נא רפא נא.
And for this last time through, we keep in our minds and in our hearts those who are in pain, who are suffering, who are ill, who are mourning loss of a loved one, loss of a job, who are in difficulty, those who have passed beyond into God's arms. We pray for each other. We keep in mind our whole world as we pray and sing.
מי שברא אבותינו מקור החיים לאמותינו הוא יברך את החולים, את החולים, אל נא רפא נא, אל נא רפא נא, אל נא רפא נא, אל נא רפא את
קבל רינת עמך סגבנו, טהרנו, טהרנו נורא. וענה בכוח גדולת ימינך תתרצה רוח. קבל רינת עמך סגבנו, טהרנו נורא. נא גיבור דורשי ייחודך כבבת שומרם, ברכם תרם רחמי צדקתך. תמיד גומלם חסין קדוש, חסין קדוש ברוב טובך נהל עדתך. יחיד גאה לעמך פנה זוכרי קדושתך. שבתנו קבל ושמע צעקתנו, יודע תעלומות. אנא, אנא בכוח גדולת ימינך תתרצה רוח. קבל רינת עמך סגבנו, טהרנו, טהרנו נורא. שבתנו קבל ושמע צעקתנו, יודע תעלומות, יודע תעלומות.
ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד.
So, I like to propose something. As we go through our week and our lives, we remember this prayer as we go through our journey. And we remember specifically this line from Na Refa Na. And it's a very important line. As we go through things, let's remember the line, Na Refa Na li. Na Refa Na li. Please, God, heal me, please. It is a simple yet powerful prayer, and it's very direct. As we go through things in life, emotions, adversities, we should remember that God is always there, and we can call out to Him for help. thank you so much for joining me today. And I wish you all a very blessed and holy and healing week. Amen. Until next week, my dear friends. Bye-bye.